This is the Nomadic Traveler Podcast. Welcome to Nomadic Traveler Podcast. I am your host, Jason, and our lovely and wonderful co-host is here as always, Miss Nicole, and we are going to be talking to Mark and Sue today, and they're going to tell us about real life on the road. So they're going to talk to us about numbers, what it costs them to actually be on the road. So if there's people out there that are looking to retire and they have that dream of going and hitting the road and traveling in a fifth wheel or a Class A or any kind of travel trailer for that matter, you can get real numbers from them, and we are going to talk about the real cost of living on the road. So you get a lot of YouTubers out there that want to talk to you about, you can do this for $1,000 a month or whatever number they might come up with. And sure, you can do it like that. But if you are retired and you have worked your whole life and you have that dream of retiring and living in a travel trailer, you're not going to want to do everything on the cheap. You're not going to want to not have any kind of entertainment budget. You're not going to want to not go experience new things. You're not going to want to stay put in the cheapest park in the area. You're going to want to go to RV resorts. You're going to want to go do the entertainment. You're going to want to go see friends and family around the country. You're going to want to do the Grand Canyon, all that kind of stuff. So Mark and Sue are here, and they talk to us about the real cost of retirement on the road. All right, we'd like to welcome Mark and Sue to the show today, and they're going to kind of tell us about what life on the road is like for them. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great.
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
So if you guys are living life on the road, where are you at today?
We're actually in Fort Myers right now. We'll be here for the whole winter.
Oh, nice. So you kind of stay put in the winter a little bit and then bounce around a little more in the summer, or?
Actually, we're all over the place. So we're here for about 4 or 5 months, but last winter we moved around a lot. We stayed at a place for 1 month, and we'd go on to another and another. And in the summer, usually we're back home in Wisconsin for about 2 months, and in between that, we're just moving. We jump around. So we don't really have quite a schedule yet. We're kind of whatever we feel like doing. And this year we felt like Florida.
Yeah, I like Florida, especially Fort Myers.
Oh, yeah.
When we were in Florida, the first year we traveled, we basically went across the top of the U.S. and then we went straight down through the Colorado area to end up at the Albuquerque Balloon Fest, and then we went to Nomad Fest, and then we went across the bottom of the U.S. and we ended up in Florida. It was like being in heaven for that time, and against the advice of people that were in the know, that were in the resorts, they said, "Oh, you better come back here next year. You don't want to go to the Pacific Southwest." And we believed them when they told us it was going to be cooler and windier, but we had to try it. And that's what Sue was talking about, where we spent a month in Yuma, a month in San Diego, a month in Desert Hot Springs, a month in Vegas, 2 months in California, and then we finally jettisoned out of there and ended up eventually back in Milwaukee, which was our hometown.
Nice. So you guys are full time on the road. You do not have a home anymore, right?
Right. Yes. We actually sold our house in 2017. That was a huge year for us. So Mark and I have been together for about 11 years now. Mm-hmm. In 2017, we got married. We sold our house. We both retired, and we got our RV, and we are just full time. We don't have a storage place at all. We put some things at my sister's place, like photographs, stuff like that, but we own no property anywhere. We're just traveling in our RV right now.
Yeah, so Jason, we're basically going to have to start completely over when this adventure is done. And, I think all your listeners know that, the vast majority of RV adventurers, full-timers, sooner or later you have to get back into something that's stationary. Usually it's health issues that will, put you back in your tracks. And we could not justify, especially after we read and looked at and listened to all of the internet and YouTube advice. People would always say, don't store your stuff because you'll be 2 or 3 years in and you'll have paid all of those fees.
Yep.
Only to discover that you want to live on the opposite end of the U.S. and now you've got to ship this, 25-year-old couch across the U.S. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
So we're kind of big believers in learning from other people's experiences and mistakes. And so that's why we took that chance. And fortunately, I'm married to somebody like Sue who's flexible and she's open for adventure and just really, sparkles up and just makes my life fun because we can do things that, are a little bit out of the box sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, that advice is golden because I see too many people that put their stuff in storage and they just can't get rid of it. And then it just, like you said, it's a 25-year-old couch. And do you really want to deal with that? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
So I think you guys are doing it right for sure.
Right. Yeah. No, we are.
Yeah. And you and I kind of picked on the easy thing, the couch, pretty much anybody can get rid of the couch. What really usually is the corker for people is they can't get rid of stuff. And there's certain things that are important, like photos and some mementos. But if you let the definition of a memento or something that is a keepsake in your life start to become too loose, you can end up having a whole container full of stuff like that you're going to have as an anchor around your ankle for the rest of your life. And then only to discover that when you finally pass on, your kids literally are going to throw all that stuff in the garbage.
Oh, God. True.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of things that were near and dear to my mom and dad when they both passed away. And, we've got plenty of grandchildren and plenty of people that I know. We could not give the stuff away. And so we passed it on to Goodwill. So that's how that ended up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And we kind of preach that a lot on this show about don't hang on to material possessions. We've had shows about, like, for Christmas time, give people experiences instead of, buying them a bunch of stuff that you're just going to use for a few weeks and a few months and then throw it away. And so...
Right. And believe it or not, we've been full-time 2.5 years already, and we're still giving stuff away to Goodwill. We were just talking today, we need to go through our closet because there's still clothes in there that we haven't really worn. So it's amazing what you don't need.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the 8 outfits, and there's 7 days in the week.
Oh, thank God. And we do have a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
So what made you guys leave your old life and kind of want this lifestyle?
Wow, that's kind of loaded. I think, well, go ahead, Mark, because it really started with his parents.
Yeah, there's 2 things that started, and I'm glad that Sue and I talked about different things like this prior, because she gave me one of the most important things that I had forgotten about, and I'll mention that second. And that's this one here.
Right,
so,
right.
The first thing for me is, as I started to approach retirement, I would kind of have little visions of what my retirement was going to be. And believe it or not, as simple as it sounds, I had visions of walking to some of the beautiful coffee shops we had in our neighborhood and reading the paper every day. I loved to hold the paper in my hand and read it. We dearly loved our recumbent bikes and riding them all different places. And trust me, going to coffee shops in the morning and maybe going on my treadmill or my bicycle every day pretty much would have satisfied me in a lot of ways. But living in Milwaukee, with the weather there and the winters they can have, it would mean a number of months, maybe at least 4 of the months, maybe 5 of the months, where there would be limited opportunities to do things outside. So that was one of the things that started to get me thinking that maybe I had to do something different. But one of the real corkers was very quickly my dad went from a pretty active, I don't want to say vibrant, but certainly functioning 91-year-old that was still driving his car and still happy to be around and doing things. And all of a sudden, he starts having difficulties getting around, and literally in a month and a half, he's in a nursing home, and I'm visiting him, and he's in the wheelchair. And my dad actually was better looking than me, so I'm like looking at my dad. It's like a good looking version of me sitting in a wheelchair, and I couldn't get past the fact that I was looking at my future. So my dad was in that nursing home for almost 5 years, and he was slipping into dementia. And every time I would visit him, it would break my heart. And I would think about, when I used to work at A.O. Smith, we would always take out a tape measure when people would talk about their life and having trouble making decisions, especially ones that required big changes, and they'd be vacillating on something, and we'd always pull out this ruler and we'd stick our finger on whatever the current age of the mortality rate was, so let's say at the time I'd pull the ruler out and I'd put it on 74, and the person maybe that I was talking to might have been 58, Yeah. And I'd say, this amount of inches of life is all you have left. Make a decision and start doing something. Well, all of a sudden now I'm pushing 65 when I'm dealing with my dad, and I'm thinking, Mark, you got to make some decisions. Mm-hmm. So I had mentioned before how flexible Sue is, so I'd start bouncing different things out of her, off her, and
all right. So Ray has a friend, Ray.
I'm Mark.
Yeah, you're Mark.
And we're married.
Been together a long time.
I gave her a kiss that verified it.
So Mark has a friend, Ray, who lives out in California, and gave Mark a call out of the blue saying that he and his wife are traveling in their Class A RV, taking like 4 or 5 months across the country, and they're coming through Milwaukee. Can we stop and see you guys? So they did, and they actually pulled this big RV right in front of our house on the boulevard.
Yep.
And here we are, we went in it and we drove somewhere, and Mark got to drive it. And it really gave us the bug, like, we could do some traveling, 3, 4, 5 months at a time.
Literally within 1 hour, he had forced me into the front seat, gave me the confidence by handing me the keys, and we drove on a residential boulevard, and we drove into a library parking lot, which granted was very big, and now that I own a motorhome and I know how expensive they are and how they're made out of tissue paper and glue, I can't believe he let me drive this thing, because the first thing I did was I drove under trees that were too low.
Yeah, and he was looking up.
Yeah.
So Ray pretty much planted the seed.
Yeah.
Well, that's all Mark needed. He's a research fanatic, so he did major researching.
Yeah. So then, when I said to Sue, I said, well, what if we sell our house and we just live on the road for a while in an RV? At that point, remember, we both had decided that we're going to move out of Wisconsin because of the weather, and we were thinking a lot more economical at the time. We were thinking probably a travel trailer, probably a fifth wheel, and a truck. And so that's kind of what started the plan.
Yeah. But then I think what really kicked us into gear was we did start looking into this, and there was the reality of Mark's dad. But then his mother died in 2016, the end of, and about a week later, one of my brothers died, and then a month later, his father died.
Wow.
And it was really an eye-opener for us. We thought, we really need to get going. Well, then a few months later, my dad died. Wow. And, I can remember showing my dad on my laptop an RV that we were thinking of selling the house. This is what we think we're going to travel in. And he's looking at it. And he's like, wow, they really changed those since I was younger. And then he said, so this is what you really want to do? And I thought, okay, here we go. I'm going to get the lecture. You're crazy or nuts. And I said, yeah, I think we're going to do this. And here he is, 87 years old. He leans in on me and he says, don't procrastinate.
Yep.
It's like, wow, okay. Yeah, somebody who's lived a long life telling, follow your dreams. So that was kind of the kick for me anyways.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
That's amazing. I love the support.
Yeah.
Very cool. How did you guys start saving money for this retirement? Was it from a long time ago, or when you guys decided to go on the road, is that when you started?
No, I would say I've always been, the type of guy that always errs on the side of safety and having a backup plan. So way back in 1983 or 4, when the company I was working for came up with something called a 401k plan, I jumped on that like you wouldn't believe, because it seemed like a miracle that they were going to match 50%, the first 6% that I would put in a fund. So all of a sudden I put 6% in and I've got 9% that I'm saving.
Mm-hmm.
Back in let's call it 1984, very quickly I ramped that up to somewhere in the neighborhood of 10%. And through the years, I was always saving probably closer to 15%.
Wow.
I never doubted, and I don't think anybody ever should doubt, that Social Security is going to be there. I mean, you talk about the sky is falling. If that ever fell through, the whole U.S. would fall through the bottom. But I could see from my parents that Social Security was not enough to ensure you having a fun and vibrant retirement. So that's how I always saved for it. Now,
do you also have a pension, Mark?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we both actually have one. So I he had his 401k. I had my 403b, which I was not saving as long as him. But being a union teacher, I have a pension. Mark has a pension. Mark is also collecting Social Security right now. I am not yet. I'm 62, but I'm waiting. I'm holding out on that. So that's all of that put together. I think mainly the pension. Without both our pensions, I'm not sure if we could really travel the way we're traveling.
Right. When I was an engineer at a company that made mining equipment for, let's say, 7 or 8 years, and then I got laid off. And when I was looking for jobs, it was pretty few and far between. But all of a sudden, I got a call from a company that made automotive parts supplies. Well, because they were in the automotive business, their engineering force was in the union. So I inadvertently became a union employee as an engineer, and it was a godsend because I put about 19 years in there before that place got sold, but pretty much was able to lock down a really good pension. And when we got married and Sue retired, I was able to have my health insurance supplement picked up by her union. Her union benefit pays for her health insurance until she becomes Medicare age. So without our pensions, without her insurance being paid, without
big.
my supplement being paid, without my 401ks to supplement us, there's no way we could be RVing in the fashion we are. And we try to be as honest and as clear as we can on our channel to that, so that, when people look at our cost video and we lay everything out in that, it's episode 76.
So did you mention we have a YouTube channel?
Tell us about your channel. Yeah, we don't know about that yet.
Okay, our channel is called Our Journey in Myles, and Myles is spelled Myles. It's actually the name of our rig. We try to tell people that, unless you're doing everything the way we are, it's certainly not going to cost as much as it cost us. we're driving a relatively late model Class A. It's 44 feet, so it's large. We stay predominantly in, not predominantly, we stay always where we're hooked up. We pretty much take the attitude that we like our full hookups. We like to be able to do laundry on any particular day that we feel like it, and we don't want to have to work too hard at figuring out if our black and our gray is full, and that's just us, and we realize that that's a little bit of a spoiled attitude on our end, but I'm 67. I've put a lot of effort in to get to this point for our adventure here. We don't know how long we'll be able to do this, so I certainly don't want to have to work hard at it.
Yeah.
Some of the younger YouTubers that are out there, I really tip my hat to them on how they're able to live in smaller spaces, have a much more affordable setup going. If I was younger, I am sure that I would be right there with them, because it's kind of a game and an adventure at the same time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have a YouTube channel. So how many videos do you guys have on your YouTube channel? Do you know?
What are we up to?
I think we're up to 94 videos. I'd say at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes each. We try to make them relatively sequential, so that as we're traveling across an area, it's a chronological order on what's happening. Now, that gets broken up a little bit if for instance, we just had, I think, about 2 or 3 videos in a row when we were in the Milwaukee area, and I told Sue, I said, we don't want to bore the people with Milwaukee. Why don't I throw something exciting in, like me spending $2,400 getting some maintenance done,
Yeah.
That'll always keep people happy. So we put that out there,
Well, and we didn't start this channel knowing what we were really getting into.
Right.
It started out just as fun. We left Milwaukee, and I used Facebook a lot to contact, let my family and friends, especially my mom, who had just lost my dad, let her know that I'm okay. This is where I am. This is what we're doing. So I was having a blast making these videos. And, Mark is kind of like, there's not many people looking at it. Why don't we start a YouTube channel?
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was kind of crazy. But I'm like, if you want to do it, do the research.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, we were meeting a lot of really cool people on the road.
Yeah.
And we would talk about our videos and like, oh, I'd like to see it. Well, if you're on Facebook, you got to say, well, friend me and you can see it. But you don't need those many friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we decided to go the YouTube route and say, well, check out our YouTube episode, whatever. That's where we were.
I'd forgotten, Sue, that really is the reason we got the channel, because we would be in the hot tubs, at night talking to the different people. We'd be talking about the places we went to, and we go, oh, yeah, we went to this really cool bike trail, a Mickelson bike trail, and then we would talk about how we've got it on our Facebook channel if they want to see what it looks like. And then it became so cumbersome for them to be my friend and all that kind of stuff. That was it for me, because all of a sudden now it was impeding us being able to share and help people with things that were so fantastic that we came across, that we felt like we did them a disservice by not being able to deliver to them.
Yeah.
So now everybody just follows your channel then on YouTube, and that's how they can see your updates?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I still do Facebook with friends and family and stuff, but
on my Facebook page, I direct my family to the channel, and I don't even write anything on there anymore because it's a full-time job already.
Yeah.
YouTube, I don't need anything else.
So the most popular video that you guys have is the one about your finances, right?
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's our most popular one, but that certainly is not what our channel is about. We are very thankful to a channel called Next Exit, Bob and Pearl. They are the true champions of Class A costs, because every month Bob and Pearl would put out a cost video on I think they have a 2008 Monaco Class A. And I had corresponded with him over a year ago, probably about a year and a half ago, and had him send his spreadsheets to me. And I always had in mind that I was going to put together some spreadsheets, but you know how that works. I never did. So the first year, Sue and I were spending money like drunken sailors, because once you buy this rig, what are you going to do? Like not move around because it, costs too much?
You're going to use it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we kind of had our head in the sand. And then so a year goes by, and I told Sue, I said, hey, Sue, how would you like to put together a spreadsheet, and I'll feed you all the receipts and everything, and, you work on this and do all the work, and then when it comes time a year from now, I'll take all your data and we'll put together a cost video on it. Tell them what you did for 1 year.
Well, I collected data.
Yeah.
I got a spreadsheet, and it was interesting. I found it fascinating. It got to a point where I'm like on his case. Where's that receipt?
Yeah.
You're holding me up.
She's a tough boss to work for, I'm telling you.
I'm on a mission here. But it really did put things in perspective on how we were spending and what we were spending it on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're making some changes.
Well, okay, so the day we decided to do that, it just so happened we were in a campground that had kind of a good setting in the background, even though there was some racket in the background. They were cutting a lawn or something, But we, lo and behold, we sat down and we tried to do it different from other channels where they would just stand up there and rattle a bunch of stuff off, or they would have a bunch of scrolling numbers. And I thought, any way I do it, it'll be too difficult for the audience to absorb. So let's tell them up front that if they send us an email, that I will send them our sheets so that they can not only study them, but they can also use the tabs across the bottom. There'll be an empty sheet with all the formulas filled in, and they can start making their own sheet. Or they could just copy it and they could look at mine and they could, I'll just pick out something here like where our Verizon or our AT&T costs. They could go, well, our costs are a lot different than that. And they could just change everything. And probably within a half an hour, they'd have a pretty good idea on what it's really going to cost. So that's how we did it. When we put that video together, we just sat down and we kind of had a conversation and
it was a real conversation. Yeah. That's one of the comments we got a lot from. Thank you for being so honest. This is, I think a lot of YouTubers putting budgets out are really trying to pinch pennies.
Yeah.
And we're tourists. We're not campers. We're just traveling and touring and stuff like that. So when we put our numbers out, they seemed awfully high, and it was really embarrassing. But people are saying this seems like a more honest total for the lifestyle. I'd say 95 to 99% of the people that contact us always say we are planning for retirement. This is the kind of thing retiring we want to do with the RVing your style, being a tourist, not a camper. So they have a better handle on what it's going to cost them. And most people think this is great. I can do this. And we have some saying, well, that just busted my bubble. Yeah. There's no way I can do this.
We were surprised when we were all done with this. We actually hesitated, okay, this sounded like a good idea, but this is too much money, or we're not going to put this out there. And it wasn't that we were embarrassed to share it. It was, we thought maybe there would be backlash. People would be mad, like we've ruined it for
You're going to turn people off to it?
Yeah, but it's been the exact opposite.
Really
I can tell you that we haven't even had a dozen people out of that entire viewership that went ballistic and didn't like what this was, because we tried to honestly say, hey, I'm sorry I spent $41.63 on average per day because I stay on KOAs. It's not our fault. It's KOA's fault. They're the ones that are charging it.
Did you guys find yourself like changing your like habits at all while you're tracking?
We're changing a little bit. We've never boondocked, and we're talking, as we're traveling one place to another to maybe try a rest stop. We are we're doing the Elks Lodge now. We're Elks Lodge members, so we've done them once in Louisville. So we're looking at other campgrounds. Now our problem is we are so big. We don't fit well in state parks. They're made for smaller vehicles.
Yeah.
And we were just in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and there's a video I'm working on right now that shows us pulling into this
Oh my God.
Jellystone Park. And it was tight, and it's a little nerve-wracking. So we do end up in parks that cost a little more, but we can get in comfortably. I mean, this is our home. We don't want to smash it.
We really appreciate when people are commenting and trying to help, and a lot of the help is that we should stay at Corps of Engineering parks or we should stay at state parks. And we really couldn't react, the end of this season to a lot of that comments because so quickly we hightailed from Milwaukee to literally 3 appointments we had for repairs and tires and maintenance. But we are going to try more Corps of Engineers, and we are going to try some different state parks and things. And like one commenter said, that they try to stay away from any campgrounds or campsites that have the word resort in them or start with a K,
Yeah. So how much did you guys spend the first year? I wanted to ask you that.
In total?
Total, yeah. Yeah, if they want to see the breakdown, they can go watch your video. I'm just wondering, what was the total for the first year, and then what was the total for the second year?
Okay, the first year we didn't keep track of anything.
Yeah.
So we just have our second year, and now we're working on our next 6 months. Marco,
why don't you talk for a second? I'd have to go. See, the only sheet that I have in front of me,
is it about 75?
Yeah, I want to say for everything, I'm going to remember a ballpark number of 75,000. Okay, so what's 75,000? That is everything: campground expenses, diesel, insurance, towing insurance, repairs, our Honda insurance, our Honda gas, our Honda maintenance, our umbrella, our groceries, restaurant cost, entertainment, cell phones, internet, dental, medical insurance, which is minimal, things purchased, our mail forwarding, travel expenses back and forth to visit the family, our different clubs we belong to, like Costco, Good Sam's, Harvest Host, Passport, and some YouTube related costs and everything. But what it did not include, and this is the corker, that 75,000 did not include an RV loan payment because we don't have one. It did not include a car loan payment because we don't have one, and it didn't include the 8% cost of the depreciation on our rig because we didn't want to scare people away.
Yeah.
Now,
it's definitely not owning a house where you think you're going to make money. We are losing money every day living in this.
But it's the cost of the experience.
It is.
So the depreciation, if we take 8% of the $230,000 for our used 2014 Newmar Dutch Star, that's $1,500 a month. To have this experience, it's costing us $1,500 in depreciation that a person can choose to totally ignore for however many years you own it, and then the realization will sit in the day you try to sell it, and you get $100,000 less for it.
Yeah, that's a real number. That's a real factor.
It's a real number, and we put it out there so people can chew on it for a while and get used to it. We're still chewing on it. We're not used to it yet.
Wow. So I thought on your video, I thought there were 2 numbers. I thought you had a first year and a second year. Maybe it was half of the second year, maybe. Because I thought your number for the second year was half as much. So I thought maybe you guys had changed.
Let me go get that.
I don't know. Well, we didn't have any totals. We didn't keep track the first year. Mark's
Okay.
looking up something
Okay.
right now. And what he might have had was the 75,000 and then the 93,000, which includes the depreciation. So I'm not sure if that's
Oh.
where
Yeah,
the
because
two
I thought it
numbers.
was like 75 and 36 or something like that. So I thought it was like half as much the second year. And I was like, wow, they must have really adjusted.
Yeah, no.
No,
I'm not sure where that 36 is.
And with that depreciation, do you know like how long you guys want to keep it? How much longer, or at what age? At what age would you want to either trade it in or like move and
You
yeah,
know,
not do this?
when Mark was looking into this whole thing, and he is a research nut, and being a mechanical engineer, he's detail oriented too. So we kept seeing on other people's vlogs and blogs that they said buy your last rig first. So we were trying to list all the things we wanted and really to make ourselves comfortable and do this. And I think we did buy our last rig first. This will be our only rig. I think that's make the mistake where they're switching out, and every time you buy one, sell one, you're losing money. So we're not sure. We always said what's going to slow us down, what's going to stop us is probably going to be health,
Yeah.
and is when that's going to be. Well, we just had new tires put on, and I think you had. What did we have? 6 tires, Mark?
yeah,
Yeah, he just bought 6 tires, which was very expensive. They're like, what, about 800, 700 per tire?
872 each,
872
Jeez.
each.
approximately.
And you and they say you really should kind of switch them out or get new ones every 6 years. So after these tires, Mark said, "Okay, 6 years, we're done RVing. We're going to sell it before we have to buy tires again." Who knows?
That's a good goal, though. I like that.
Yeah. We're not sure when we're going to end.
So, and that's a whole new subject we can talk about is, we're having such a good time, and we get along real well in 400 square feet. So we're pretty sure that the way we're enjoying it now, we're going to enjoy it till the end. And the end might be described when one or the other has a health issue that might make either getting in and out of or driving the RV impractical or unsafe.
Yeah.
So that's what could happen. So, Jason, I just printed out what you might have been referring to. When I send these sheets to people, I basically sent 2 Excel spreadsheets. And one of them was pretty much everything that we could easily identify that we spend, as well as I just recently filled in the 8% depreciation thing, so that particular spreadsheet it's called the OGIM cost sheet. It's got everything in the kitchen sink in there, plus the depreciation, and that's the one that ends up at $93,700 a year. And it has an empty sheet in it, so you can fill in your own stuff. The other Excel spreadsheet that you looked at, because I thought I didn't want people to look at that and go, "Oh my God," So I stripped it down, and I took a lot of the things out that.
Well, they weren't RV related.
Yeah.
Things we would spend money on anyways. Our groceries, our entertainment, our restaurants, stuff like that.
Yeah. So the 32,000 that you're remembering, that pretty much just had campsite expenses, diesel fuel.
It's all RV related.
Insurance,
Gotcha.
towing,
Okay.
repairs. Just it was kind of a stripped down version.
Yeah. Everybody has their own budget when it comes to entertainment. Not that people are going to spend the way we do with entertainment, not the way they'll spend their groceries the way we spend. I like to buy organic, which unfortunately is more expensive. But, so everybody's day to day, whether they're in a house or an RV, their expenses are different for that stuff.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the biggest preventative maintenance step that people can do to keep their rig like safe and operational for like the long haul?
For me, the number one thing ended up being your tires, because if you have a blowout at the wrong time in the wrong place, your RVing career can be really affected in bad ways. We've heard, we haven't seen, but we've heard of the horror stories where people have a blowout on, let's say, for instance, they're pulling a fifth wheel, and they'll blow a tire out, but it'll take out, $6,000 worth of fiberglass, and they'll almost have a calamity. If you have a blowout in a motorhome, you can pretty much have the same issues where the gator or the outside of the tire will separate from the tire after X number of revolutions during your blowout. You can do $25,000, $30,000 worth of body damage by having a blowout. But the worst thing is if you have a front wheel blowout, because your coach instantly will go either left or right. So I always, my advice to people is to go on the internet and type in Michelin truck tire data book, and there's about 135-page book there that's got a lot of pictures, a lot of charts, a lot of good advice and engineering data, but written for us common guys to understand, to tell you everything you need to know about tires. And I'm telling you, you got to know what each and every one of the tire loads is on your rig, so you know what to put your pressures at. So to me, that was the number one thing. But then the second thing I would caution people on is you have to make sure that your roof is in tip-top shape always. Literally every few months you have to be up there, especially like where we are, where we're in the Florida sun just beating down on you. It is amazing how quickly, if a leak develops, how you can have a lot of damage done. So there it is, tires in the roof, and then I guess everything in between is going to be the next answer.
Well, so tell me a little bit about the tires that you just upgraded to. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
And your retro band.
Yeah.
The retro band, that's what I was asking about, yeah.
Okay, well, that's you learn a lot of things sometimes, maybe not in the right order. And when I got this rig, the tires, we bought a 2014. 2014. We bought it in 2017. So the tires were nominally about 3 years-ish old. And that Michelin tire book that I mentioned, if you read in there, it will gingerly say that, at about the 7 year, you can maybe push your tires to 10 years, but you should have them professionally looked at after 7 years. Well, imagine going into a tire store with your motorhome.
Yeah.
And, hey, my tires are 7 years old. I was wondering if you'd like to, bless them with holy water for the next year. Well, no one's going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you got to look at Michelin, probably was sheepishly putting the 7 year mark in. And that's why most people on IRV2, when you read those blogs, will say, hey, 6 years, get them off your rig. So unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you're going to get a flat along the way, and that could happen to me. So when I first bought the rig, I put 2 new tires on the front because I wanted to start brand new. I put Tyron tire bands in, which was the best setup you could get at the time to help you in a blowout situation. And lo and behold, 9 months later, I end up getting a flat across my drive axle in the back. And when they come out to fix your tire, they basically say, okay, I can plug this tire, but I can't guarantee that you're not going to have a problem. And, you'll probably be 400 miles down the road, when you get to your next campground. So the only way we can guarantee that this tire will never leak again is if we sell you a new one. So that was my first rude awakening, that realistically, every time you get a flat on your rig, costs you $800 because you're going to buy a new tire.
Yep.
Wow.
So now I got 2 new tires on the front, remember, and I got 1 new tire on my drives. So now I go about a year and a half down the road, only to find out that because of the progression in the design world of Michelin tires, that even though I had the same size tire in the same model series, that if you dug down in the engineering data deep enough, that tire that they put on was in fact 1/4 of an inch taller than my other 3 tires, because tires are rated in a revolutions per mile in the engineering world. And that one tire that they put on had 3 more revolutions in a mile than the other ones. So here I am for year and a half driving down the road, and my tires are all struggling back there. They're having like a food fight back there while I'm driving around. So I had to make a decision, even though that tire was my newest tire back there. When I finally was replacing the majority, I guess, of my 6-year-old's tires, I decided to just replace them all. So that one that was always having the food fight, that one went out the window too.
Yeah.
So now I have 6 new tires. The 2 tires that were 2 years old that were on the front, I put on my tag axle, and this retro band that I put in.
And that the retro band is to replace the
Tyron bands.
Yeah,
I took the Tyron bands out. The Tyron band is a steel band that fits in the wheel well of your wheel, and it occupies the space so that if you have a blowout, the beads that are sitting on the rim have nowhere to go. So when your tire gets a flat, if you don't have a Tyron band, it turns into a rag doll, and in about 3 seconds, you've got nothing. You're riding on your rim, and you're taking a ride off to the left or the right. With the Tyron band, the bead stays intact, and you have kind of a floppy donut to ride on. Now, since then, the retro band was developed, and it was made by a company in Australia, Craig International Ballistics, and they're the ballistics supplier, protection supplier for the Australian government. And this guy is older; he's my age, and he, has got some dough. And when he was picking up his new Cornerstone or Coach or whatever he's driving at National Indoor, he got into a conversation apparently with some of the movers and shakers at National Indoor, and he said, "Hey, I can develop a run flat setup here like I do for our military vehicles, and it'll be way better, from a safety standpoint in the event of a blowout." So I looked at the videos that were finally developed, and sure enough, they put a charge on the front tire and they have a blowout, and lo and behold, the guy's driving on his flat tire for like 10 miles. Now, I'm not planning on driving 10 miles on my flat. I'll drive, 10 blocks to get over to the side. And I'll be happy if I don't have a problem and an issue, because if I get over to the side of the road in one piece and it's not too scary, I can be assured that Sue might continue to RV with me.
Right.
But if she detects too much distress during the process there, I'm telling you, we're going to be on a cruise ship, That'll be the end of RV.
That's the most important part, right? Make sure Sue is happy.
That's right.
It is.
Happy wife.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and break things right there. This episode is a fairly long one, but it's pretty interesting, and it's got a lot of good data to it. So I figure if there's people out there that are actually looking to retire and want to live their life on the road, that this is packed full of information that they might enjoy. So rather than cut it all out of the episode, I figured I would make it into a 2-parter. So come back for part 2 next week.
Who would have thought that was how much a tire cost? Did you know that?
I knew it was pricey. I didn't think it was quite that much. I would have guessed around 5 to 6.
Yeah. I love how honest they are and open, so you can really get a feel for what it really is going to cost.
Yeah. Although they're ultra safe. I'd travel anywhere with Mark.
I probably need to travel with Mark.
With his smoke detectors and his tires. And
retro bands.
So, yeah. You're super safe when you roll with them.
Yeah, that was such good information, for
So
sure.
that's the cool thing about it, is if you want to roll like that, you want to make sure you have absolutely everything in place to be as safe as possible. You can do that, or you can do somewhere, between the minimum and
Yeah.
here. So,
Well, and I think RVing right now, as far as retirement, is so glorified that I think this gives it a good, realistic view
yeah.
of what it is. Not that it's not glorifying, but there's
No,
more
it's
to
good.
it,
I mean, and yeah, it's enjoyable, but you just have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
So you'd want to budget appropriately
Yeah.
so you can have the time that you want to have and not be stuck living on a budget when you're supposed to be living your glory.
Yeah.
Your glory
yeah.
years, golden years.
Same thing.
The glory golden years.
Yeah. They're both.
I'm going to copyright that.
Yeah. So it's good information.
Yeah. So come back next week and you can hear the rest of Mark and Sue and the real cost of travel. I'm sorry, the real cost of retirement on the road. We'll see you next week.